Hello, trainers! Professor Palm here, and as you can tell by all these lovely fossil Pokemon, I've picked up a new hobby. That's right, I've picked up paleontology as a brand new hobby. I really like collecting fossils, but I really like restoring them too and learning all about the past. Unfortunately, I don't have a degree yet, but I could also go back to school and get my paleontology degree. I'm always excited whenever I find a fossil in any of the games. I have to say, finding a prehistoric Pokemon and taking it with you on your journey is awesome. Imagine how powerful it was back then. But it is sad to see that it went away, but now it's back, and I think you should be happy to have that power on your team. Despite having prehistoric Pokemon since Generation 1, did you know that we didn't get dinosaur prehistoric Pokemon until Generation 4? Yeah. The very first dinosaur prehistoric Pokemon are none other than Cranidos and Shieldon. Pretty cool that for the longest time we had them based off of Crustaceans in Generation 1, while Generation 3 introduced prehistoric Pokemon based off of ancient insects and ancient plants. It really is so cool finally having dinosaur Pokemon, and I gotta admit, the very first time I learned that we have dino Pokemon, I was so thrilled! I had recently seen Jurassic Park for the very first time. Yeah, I know, it's a very old movie and it's weird that you hadn't seen it, but as a kid I was kind of scared about the stuff. But as I've gotten older, I really love that movie, and I really love fossil Pokemon just as well. Kind of sad that we don't have a Jurassic Park place in the world of Pokemon. We did get a little bit of a hint of that in Pokemon Sun and Moon, as well as Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon with the fossil restoration guy. However, I think it's best to talk about the true dino Pokemon, and where else to start? None other than Cranidos and Rampardos. For the very first dinosaur Pokemon, I gotta say, Cranidos and Rampardos pulled it off incredible. I love their designs. I have to admit, I have seen their beta designs as well. They looked great, but for the final product, I give them an A+. My favorite thing about these Pokemon is their domed heads. They can smash into anything and not get dizzy or faint over the head trauma. That is impressive. Something not a lot of trainers know is that Cranidos and Hey, guys, break it up. Whew. Yeah, I guess it kind of showed you there that these Pokemon really like to fight, and they're a little bit aggressive, but nonetheless, they do make great training partners as they're always ready for a battle. Well, trainers, it's time to go back 100 million years ago! But before we begin, I want to give a very special thank you and a shout out to Etsy artist HTTP Koopa for this shirt. This is actually Gym Leader Gordy's jersey. Oh, and if you never got to battle him, he's a Pokemon Sword exclusive gym leader only. He's a rock type specialist. Since we're talking about fossil Pokemon, they're usually rock type Pokemon, and I thought that this is the perfect shirt to wear for this video. If you're a big fan of rock type Pokemon, or you really enjoyed Gordy's battle, or you think the shirt just looks great, I would personally say buy it. But the reason why I would say you should definitely buy it is, why buy a silly stock image t-shirt when you can give really talented artists like HTTP Koopa good business? I may not be sponsored by him, but I do want to say thanks so much for this awesome shirt. In the recent games, I have to say, I really like that some rock-type gym leaders have put Dino Pokemon on their team. A really good touch. But I think it's time that we go 100 million years into the past. And we're going to start by charging head first with the headbutt Pokemon itself, Cranidos. Cranidos! Cranidos the headbutt Pokemon is based on the dinosaur, the Pachycephalosaurus, but as many of us call it for short, the Pachyosaur. And just like those dinosaurs, Cranidos has a very thick skull and a very large dome on its head. This dome is like an iron ball, and its skull is stronger than iron. Nothing can break it. About 100 million years ago, in the jungle is where Cranidos lived. These Pokemon actually lived in packs, as they really did not like to be alone. And whenever they would move from one place to another, and there was something obstructing their path, The leader, Cranidos, would charge headfirst into either a tree or even a rock, smashing it in seconds. These Pokemon hated having something in their way, and they were always there for each other as no one in the pack got left behind. In the prehistoric times, since there were no trainers, Cranidos trained in a different way. You see, two Cranidos toughened up their iron-like heads by headbutting one another. And their heads weren't only used for battle, they also played games with it. You see, some Cranidos like to play a game of ball, except that they used fruit. I guess you could say that this was their version of football as well as soccer, except if you were just using your head and a fruit was the ball. Back in the ancient days of prehistoric time, there were so many fossil Pokemon, but most fossil Pokemon had a similar enemy, that being the apex predator of the time, Aerodactyl. So, Aerodactyl preyed on a lot of things. But Aerodactyl did not drive away Cranidos. Since these Pokemon lived in a pack, they all worked together to take on those bullies in the sky. Since they had those powerful headbutts and they could jump pretty high, these Pokemon were able to take those things down very easily. Then again, they are rock-type Pokemon and they were going against a rock-flying type, so of course, rock wins. Even though Cranidos have a very strong iron ball dome head, they weren't always used for battle. If you didn't know, Cranidos is actually an herbivore, just like the Pachycephalosaurus. Despite its appearance and its tendency to run really fast, it was more of an herbivore and it never really ate meat. Cranidos is the same. You see, this Pokemon really liked eating fruit, and they did something pretty cool back in time. If the fruit was out of reach and they couldn't get it, these Pokemon would slam headfirst into the tree many times until the fruit dropped. If the fruit stayed stuck up there, they would run as fast as they could to knock down the tree and get their dinner. Cranidos made its anime debut in the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl series episode, Shape of Things to Come, under the ownership of Gym Leader Rourke. In the core series, Cranidos is the signature Pokemon of Gym Leader Rourke, marking it the very first time that a gym leader, let alone a rock-type gym leader, used a fossil Pokemon. Cranidos was also a Diamond exclusive only Pokemon, as you could only find the fossils by digging in the underground. If you want to use this Pokemon competitively, this might not be a great idea for a rock team, as Cranidos has the lowest base defense stat of all rock-type Pokemon. I guess that makes sense, because attacking is this Pokemon's strong suit, and it likes to waste no time charging into victory. Cranidos evolves the earliest of any fossil Pokemon, just at level 30, and it gets even stronger and even more aggressive. So, let's charge into battle and evolve our little Cranidos into Rampardos. And, just like the Hulk, Rampardos Smash! Rampardos, the headbutt Pokemon, is also based on a Pachycephalosaurus, just like its previous evolution, and as we've said, it's also known as a Pachyosaur. These Pokemon have domed-like heads, just like those dinos. Rampardos skulls are so hard. In fact, they're as hard as steel that in ancient times, some people would excavate the fossil of this Pokemon and use its skull to make helmets. Rampardos' headbutt is so powerful that this Pokemon has enough force to pulverize even a skyscraper, which makes it great for demolition. Even the most durable things in the world will be shattered upon impact by this Pokemon's powerful headbutt. If you had to describe this Pokemon's skull, one word that would be perfect is indestructible. In prehistoric times, Rampardos lived in packs with one another. These Pokemon always competed to see who was the best, so two of them would oftentimes butt heads with each other, training to become the best. But thankfully, their heads were very thick, and those domes, which are indestructible, kept these Pokemon from fainting. However, I don't think that was great, bringing a lot of trauma to your head, though. In recent years, many paleontologists who have gone on fossil digs have discovered that Rampardos fossils as well as Bastiodon fossils are very close towards one another in their spots, suggesting that these Pokemon shared an incredible relationship. What that relationship is, we'll sadly never know. We don't know if these Pokemon lived in the same habitat as one another, if they got along and were allies, or if they competed and were enemies. Who knows? Sadly, we'll never know. But it is interesting to know that they lived in the same territory as each other. One major flaw with Rampardos is the fact that this Pokemon cannot change directions once it's charging, so it'll charge headstrong into the direction it's going, and nothing really can stop this Pokemon. Even the world's strongest tree will be reduced to a twig by this Pokemon's incredible sheer force. No matter how good of a runner you are, you will never be able to outrun this incredible Pokemon. I would suggest that always having its Pokeball on hand is good, because if it charges in one direction and it's the wrong one, you don't know how much damage it can do. On the bright side, even if it's going very fast, you know you have a Pokemon who's headstrong and is ready for a fight, and this Pokemon is ahead of the game. Rampardos made its anime debut in the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl series episode In the Wild Streets, when Rourke's Cranidos evolved into Rampardos after being trapped in Meowth's net. In the core series games, Rampardos is the signature Pokemon of Gym Leader Rourke when you take him on in a rematch in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Because of this Pokemon's aggressive nature and it loves to fight, Rampardos has the highest base stat attack of all Rock-type Pokemon. With that Pokemon having the title of the strongest Rock-type Pokemon, you can see why this Pokemon loves to fight, and why it never turns down a battle. Being that Cranidos and Rampardos are pure Rock-type Pokemon, they don't have any extra weaknesses, but being that they are Rock-type makes them a pretty weak typing, as Rock-types have a lot of weaknesses. For the attacks that are super effective on Rock-type Pokemon, keep these Pokemon away from water, ground, grass, steel, and fighting. Wow! 5 different weaknesses. That's a lot for a single type Pokemon. Maybe it can make up with that for strengths. Even though these Pokemon have a lot of weaknesses, as the saying goes, the pendulum swings both ways. So yep, Cranidos and Rampardos have different typings that they're very strong against. Being that they're pure rock type, they know rock type moves which are very strong against fire, flying, and of course, ice. And being that Rampardos also has the highest base stat attack of all Rock-type Pokemon, this is a Pokemon that is always ready for battle, so don't approach it unless you're 100% ready for a fight. Did you know that Cranidos and Rampardos are the only pure Rock-type fossil Pokemon to this day? Well, until Generation 8, every fossil Pokemon always was Rock and something else, making these the only single-type fossil Pokemon. But if they did have to have a dual type, I think that since these Pokemon love to fight and go into battle, I think a rock fighting type would have made an excellent typing combo. Because Cranidos and Rampardos literally use their heads for battle, all that frequent head smashing gave these Pokemon very low intelligence, as their brain never really got the chance to grow, and with all that head smashing, this is what made these Pokemon become very dim-witted. So yeah, a lot of paleontologists believe that because of these frequent blows to the head, this is why these Pokemon went extinct. Not because of damage, but because of low intelligence till they couldn't understand even how to survive anymore. Despite these Pokemon not being the most intelligent, there are plenty of trainers out there who prefer Brawn over Brain, and the fact that these Pokemon are always up for a battle and don't back down makes them great partners. After all, they charge first and ask questions later. Despite these Pokemon having rock-hard heads, their ability is actually Mold Breaker, which allows them to bypass any other Pokemon's effect with any move. Kind of strange for some Pokemon with rock-hard heads to not have Rock Head as their ability. Another reason, which probably drove Cranidos as well as Rampardos into extinction, other than a meteorite, also could be the fact that since these Pokemon weren't very smart, all they would do is fight, and they sometimes would fight the wrong Pokemon, causing them to lose their lives. Sad to say that these Pokemon are not great thinkers. Despite them having very big heads, I guess sometimes having a big head isn't always just the greatest thing to have. While many Pokemon and trainers alike use their head to strategize and come up with a winning technique, Cranidos and Rampardos get ahead of the situation and charge into battle without question. This technique sure does bring a whole new meaning to the phrase, using your head. I really cannot believe he charged into my camera. But to be honest, I really do have to say, these Pokemon are incredible, but all that head smashing has given me a major headache. I think I'm going to take some ibuprofen now. But I'm really curious to hear from you, trainers. Do you like fossil Pokemon, or are you not much of a fan of fossil Pokemon? Who's your favorite fossil Pokemon? And what do you think's going to happen in Generation 9 with fossil Pokemon? Think we'll get more? Think we'll get fossil fusions like we got in Generation 8? Or do you think we're not going to get any like in Generation 7 and Generation 2? If I had to choose what I could get for a fossil Pokemon, I want to see a Velociraptor become a fossil Pokemon. I think I would like to see a rock electric type. That looks incredible. What do you think would be a good Pokemon for a fossil Pokemon? I really would love to know. If you liked what you saw, please leave a like. If you want to answer any of the questions I said, talk about something else, or you want me to cover another line, please comment. And as always, if you like what you saw and you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. And please feel free to recommend me to any trainer out there. Thanks for watching. Palm out.